Welcome to this tutorial in our series on how to build an application from services for the IIP-Ecosphere platform. In this tutorial we will go over how to build an application. First you need to implement the service functionality, so that also actually do something, because right now we've only defined and created some templates. Then we need to install the services and then build the application. Prerequisites for this are that you have an installed platform with its dependencies and an IDE you want to work with, preferably the one we provide, or you are using the development container. You should know how to configure data types, services and an application, as these three things are needed to be configured correctly to now further work with this and build a correct application. Optionally, you could have looked into how code generation works. So how do we actually build the application now? The templates for the IVML files should enable you to just build it without even adding functionality. So if you've just created without adding functionality. If you're following the videos in a chronological order, you will probably have done this step already. But as it's part of building, we will reiterate it here. Use MVN U generate sources for updating. So if you're doing this a second time, use U to update and make sure that your sources are newly generated with every update you might have made in the middle of it. This will get the meta model, as well as generating the gen folder, which will be overwritten every time you do this. To view the generated classes, you can go to impl model gen py application interfaces and view the different interfaces that are created and can be used. You should not edit these classes. If they do not behave how you want them to, you should check your IVML file if the configuration actually makes sense for your use case, because these files are meant to work as they are generated. If you mess with these, you might just introduce new errors and don't solve your problem. If you have a Python service, you will find application interfaces Python as well as Java. In Python, there will be the corresponding Python classes of your Java classes. Templates is the location where you can find your main service classes and look at them. Here you can quickly confirm if everything is generated as you expected. If there aren't 3 files in your Java service path and you've defined them all to be at the same path, you should be rechecking your IVML file to make sure that the generation should have produced the correct result. You see them highlighted here. The gen location will be overwritten each time, like I've mentioned, so you cannot really work with this. If you need to regenerate anything because the data type changed or something you've forgotten about or maybe made an error, you will overwrite everything, including the functionality of your services, which would drag out this whole process. To create functionality, import the .zip file at the bottom of the screen right now as a separate project, preferably on the same level as your impl model project, to make other things like creating the path for testing, we will get to this in the next slide set, easier. So how do we import the templates into Eclipse to work on them? First we create a new empty Maven project, preferable in the same workspace. Then we select create a simple Maven project to skip some of the configuration. Then we fill in the fields like group ID, artifact ID and name. The only thing that will remain from this is the artifact ID as the name of the project in Eclipse. If this is done, you can press finish to create the project. In the next step, you import the templates into your workspace. So first you go to import general archive file. Then you select the zip located in gen.py templates Eclipse. You select the Maven project that you've just created as a target for this. You take overwrite existing files. If you re-import a new project because you have to regenerate something, you can still do it, then do not tick this and take caution not to overwrite your services, because if you just don't overwrite these 3, then everything around it can still be upgraded without losing your functionality. This might be easier to then fix the changes in the service current functionality than to build it from scratch. When you click finish, there might be errors in it. Just to make sure, run Maven update on it by right-clicking, going to Maven, say update project. To add functionality to this, we go into our imported project. The path is depending on the naming choices, like DE IIP-Ecosphere Platform impl shop is something we define in the IVML file. We added the produce and here your input data name method to renew a new instance of your data type. So produce and then the data name is always for a synchronous source. We will see how an asynchronous service would work when we're moving on to the next services. A synchronous service always works with return. We have on the bottom left some example data input. The in data is something we define in the data. The input data is named in data. We can see this in the name of the function. And in this example, we just use 1 as a value for everything just to pass it on and have some data in it. You then go to the transformer. You edit the method receiving the data type in the way that the passed on instance is the new data type, your output data type, and in the meantime have some kind of transformation between it. In this pretty bare bones example, we just create an out data type and pass it on, because out data is the output of our transformer. In this case, we just set these two values to something new and ingest. Ingest is how it would look like if you have an asynchronous service. So there it is ingest your defined data type. In case of our source service, it would be ingest in data to pass on data. Obviously, you would need to add more functionality to this to actually make it a working service, but this is a bare bones example. To create functionalities for our transformer service, we added the method receiving the data from the source service or from the previous service. This will be always process data type, in data type that's needed. In this case, process in data, this is what the source service passes on. To add functionality to our transformer, we added the method receiving the data type, the in data type. In this case, the out data type of the service before this one. So process in data in this case. We first create an instance of our output data type to add values to this to pass on. And if we've added values to this, theoretically after some transformation, via logic applicable to your situation, you call ingest out data, which is basically ingest output data name and then the instance. This is for asynchronous services. So if our source would have been asynchronous, we would also use ingest there. Moving on, we have the sync. The sync is the end of our services. So you can utilize the data in any part or in any way you see fit for this. In this case, we just put out the data to read them. We end on some complete source files. So I've shown parts of it. Now we have the complete image of the source files. The 3 classes we've talked about. Firstly, the sync. We can see our in data we worked with. This is down below, only in this small region. And everything else is generated. So you do not need to worry about this. What you would need to add is something to actually receive data from outside. So some kind of another method to read in files or grab a file stream or something like this. In the transformer method, we as well have our created part at the bottom, only down below. And here you could also add some helping methods. This is a pretty simple transformation. You probably would have something more complex. The rest of this file again is completely created, and this is also the whole file, how it would look at the end of our process. We end on the sync service. As with the other two, we have our to be added method at the bottom, highlighted here. And the rest of this class is also completely generated. Here as well, you might add helping methods to maybe save the data somewhere else, output it, or put it in another program or something like this. Now that we've added functionality, we need to go actually install the services. To do this, run mvn install in your imported template project to make these services available as Maven artifacts to your main application. After successfully installing, you can then go into your model project, so the one that was already present in which you generated the templates. Run Maven install in this, so mvn install again. And this will finish the application creation and also create something like tests, which we will go over in the next video. Your finished app will be in impl model genpy app name, that's something you've defined, target app name version snapshot binjar. That is the file you want to care about. What you've learned here, how to add functionalities to these services and at which point in our generated classes, and how to build an application from the template project. How you could go on is how to test the application and running the application on the platform.